Shabbat Shalom. This week we learn of a character who, depending on how you look at him, is either a hero or a villain. And his name is Victor Wembanyama. I know there's like 3 New Yorkers in the room. This is for you, okay? All right, thanks, guys. Yeah. I'll explain. So this is a basketball player known as Wemby, Victor Wembanyama. He is a French national who plays for the San Antonio Spurs, who just lost to the Knicks in 5. Mazel tov, mazel tov. Yeah. Let it not be said I don't pander. Wemby entered the league in 2023 at the age of 20 and was the first unanimous Rookie of the Year in a decade. When he started, and he plays with grace, he wasn't afraid to show emotion. The world loved him and was ready to call him one of the greats until this year. The end of the playoffs. Thrown elbows, flagrant fouls, walking off the court without shaking hands with the other team, and throwing Jalen Brunson to the ground have all led the now 22-year-old French phenom to be seen by many as the NBA's new villain. So, is Wemby a hero? A new kind of masculine? A new kind of player who's going to save the NBA, who at 22 just got rattled and made a few mistakes? Or is he actually an arrogant, flagrant, fouling, manipulative villain who deserved the eggs that New York fans threw at him as he went back to his hotel? The answer, of course, is we don't really know. It depends on how you look at it, and it depends on what happens from here. The same is true of the main character in today's Parsha. Korach, a member of the priestly class, gathers 250 other priests and princes who come to Moshe and Aaron and say, "You take too much upon you, seeing as all the congregation are holy, every one of them, and the Lord is among them. Why then lift yourselves up above the assembly of the Lord?" What ensues is a minor rebellion that ends with God using a miracle to show that Aaron is the rightful high priest, fire from the altar consuming Korach, then a plague, then his co-conspirators and followers being swallowed by the earth. The biblical narrative seems clear, and Leo, you spoke about this beautifully. The biblical narrative seems clear. Korach is a bad guy. Divine fire and fissures in the earth don't kill the good people. But many later readers, especially modern Americans, question the arch-villain status of Korach. Was he really so bad? Was he really so wrong? We are all in fact holy, right? Today we don't have a Moses or an Aaron. We all have to live our own Jewish lives. So maybe Korach was a proto-modern and a Jewish hero. Most of our traditional commentaries agree with his bad guy. Because, again, the Torah seems to not like Korach. He gets swallowed up by the earth. But they don't really agree on what made him a villain, which shows you that they don't really know why he was such a bad guy. Some of our commentaries say that the problem was with not the substance of his argument, but the way that he went about it. He split the Israelites into two with a schism. Have you ever heard of such a thing? He argued publicly instead of taking Moses aside in flagrant HR violations. Or he wasn't nice in the way that he argued. He didn't quote Moshe back to him first. He didn't disagree without being disagreeable. And other rabbis say, no, actually his problem was one of substance. He had, according to Ramban, removed from his heart the correct path. He was just angry. He was just trying to be mean. Others say he wasn't interested in all of Israel, just really himself and his followers. Right? If you read the story, this is not the Declaration of Independence moment. This is like the Magna Carta moment at best, right? It's a group of people just under the ruling class saying, we'd like a little bit more power, please do, but we don't really care about everyone else. Or, according to Rabbi Lord Sachs, his problem was that he was a populist, spreading anger and silencing other voices. Now, Rashi quotes the Tanhuma, and he imagines that what Korach and his followers really had with Moshe was a sort of rabbinic, halachic, Jewish law debate. They imagine Korach coming to Moses and saying, if someone has a talus entirely made of techelet, don't worry, I'll explain what this is, does it need its own techelet? So if some say, right, that the fringes of our talitot have to have one strand of blue, if you had an entirely blue talus, say Korach and his followers, would you still need a fringe of blue or not? And Moses says, of course, yes. So then Korach and his followers say, if you had a house that was full of nothing but scrolls of the Torah, would that house need its own mezuzah, a little Torah on the side? And Moses says, yes. And Korach says, you're making all this up. Because I've read the Torah, says Korach, and you didn't say anything about all blue taluses, and you didn't say anything about a house full of Torah scrolls needing a mezuzah, so therefore we know you're just making this up as you go along. And the rabbis in the Midrash imagine that Korach organizes his followers, I'm not making this up, to all wear blue talitot. And it was the first sense of fashion activism in history, that they were all running around with all blue talitot, which show Moses two things. And the reason for this debate here is in two ways. One, they're being really nudnicky to Moshe. Because Moses answers in the Midrash, I am the mezuzah, I am the techelet. Because essentially what they're saying is, if you had a garment that was all holy, it wouldn't need the extra holy reminder. If you had a house that was all holiness, you wouldn't need the extra holy reminder of the mezuzah. We, the Jewish people, are all holy. We don't need you, Moses and Aaron. You are superfluous, and you gotta go. But also, they're calling into question the entire rabbinic project. If weird debates about Jewish law aren't what we're supposed to do, then what are any of us doing here? So, Korach's debate is either one of political schism or perhaps one of selfish nobles trying to take more stuff, or it is calling into very question everything about Judaism that we practice today, and he is the ultimate in arch-villain. Or perhaps he is a populist who wants democracy, who wants there to be freedom, who wants to get out of the yoke of the tyranny of Moses and Aaron and wants everyone to live their own holy lives. It really depends on how you look at it. A lot of our lives, I think, can seem this way as well. We live in a world where we are in danger of, if not have already lost, the context for basically everything in our lives. We don't have agreed upon facts. We know that there's spin everywhere we look, and so it's hard to take things as truth or in face value. It's hard perhaps to know, as we look at things, who is good and who is bad, if those categories are even useful, who should be liked and who should be loathed, who should be feared and who should be followed. It is hard to see the villains and the heroes around us. And I worry that in whatever realm we're talking about right now, or whatever realm you're thinking of, social, political, communal, whatever it is, that because it's hard to know what's what, that means that what we do is we just bring our existing views and predispositions to whatever we are looking at, and we make a judgment. Is it right or is it left? I will then love it or hate it accordingly. Is it from my team or not my team? Well, I'm on board if it's my team, and I hate it if it's not. I worry that we are losing the thread and the ability to find our way. Now, obviously, I am not about to tell us who in this world is good and who in this world is bad, but of course I do know the answer. But I think that the Torah has a clue into giving us a rubric for trying to figure this out. Because God solves the debate between Korach and Moses in a very specific way. So if you were reading along, what God does is says to Moses, take everyone, all of the rebellious folk, have them put their staffs with me, give Aaron take his staff also. I'm going to put them in the tent of meeting. We're going to wait a day and we're going to see whom God chooses. And who does God, well, first of all, who does God choose? Aaron. Okay, right. We know how this story ends. But what was the sign that Aaron is the guy? That God has chosen Aaron to be the leader over everyone else, right? That he is the righteous one. His staff does what? For 100 million bonus points? Blossoms, right? Sprouts out, blossoms, and don't worry if you didn't, it's fine. There's no quiz, the bonus points aren't real. Aaron's staff blossoms. It sprouts out growth and new things. And that is the sign that Aaron's cause is the righteous one. And this is beautiful and confusing. Why is it that the sprouting of almond blossoms is the thing that shows? Well, Rashi says almonds are the earliest of produce. They're the fastest to bloom and to sprout. And it was a sign that God's holiness and God's justice come swiftly, just like the almond blossoms. The Zohar, though, says almonds are both bitter and sweet, just as leadership is a mix of judgment, but also forgiveness. A later commentary, Chizkuni, says that it's about the process of what it means to grow and to bloom. There's different stages. There's different ways you have to tend to it. And that is something that a leader needs to know, that we have processes and growth is slow moving. And Kli Yakar, a later commentary, still don't worry, there's no quiz, points out that it's not just the staff that starts to bloom. But there's a midrash that I didn't know until I read this, that once we get to Jerusalem, we build the temple, everything in the Beit HaMikdash bloomed. The stones, the gold, everything that was there had growth and flowers and almonds and seed and everything growing out of it all the time, which completely changes your idea of what the temple looked like if it's basically a jungle of things growing, right? But it is a sign that it is this blossoming and growth that is important, because that's what it means to be one of the good guys, is to be thinking about things that grow and build, to think about things that bloom, to think about processes, to mix leadership with both judgment and forgiveness. And Rabbi Nachman says of this image of a staff with the almond blossoms growing out of it, that this is what it means to be a society and a leader, because the growth represents loving kindness, chesed, joy, what Aaron was, but that can't be if it doesn't have structure to grow on. And so the staff represents the structure that we need in our lives and in our society to support this growth and blooming and blossoming. So, when we look at people and things in this world, whether it is Korach or Wemby or anything around, or even ourselves, and we want to think about what we see as good and what we see as bad, the Torah wants us to look at is who is trying to build things, who is trying to make things bloom. In every camp, on every side, there are people who want to tear down and there are people who want to build. It is the building that brings God and loving kindness into this world. And if you want to know who the heroes are, look to those people that are growing and building. Look to the people mixing sweet and bitter, forgiveness with their judgment. Look to people who want to have structure, as long as that structure is a holder for the blossoms of love and kindness, who want to live in a world where everything, even the gold, is covered in blossoms and flowers. And if you look around and you do not see that hero, then it might be time to be them. Shabbat Shalom.